Of you guys saw this video by Arnold Schwarzenegger where he compared what happened on January 6th to Kristallnacht in Germany. A lot of us don't know about it, and that's pretty much why he used it. Now, is this important? At the time, I didn't really make much of it. In fact, the only response I had is when someone posted the words Kristallnacht on his social media page, I just replied, "Get to the chopper." What I'm saying there is basically you've never heard of Kristallnacht before. You have no idea what it is. You're just quoting your favorite Arnold line of the day. If that's your favorite Arnold line, I'm going to quote my favorite Arnold line that also has no bearing in reality. So why is it important? It's important, and you'll see as we go in this video why it's relevant. It's especially relevant with the cancellation of Gina Carano, that we were all told that it's total anathema to ever use any comparison of what's going on in America to Nazi Germany. But apparently what's not acceptable is making accurate comparisons that actually can help us. But what is acceptable is if you make Republicans, if you make conservatives, if you make Trump supporters look like Nazis, then that's perfectly acceptable. So in the beginning portion of this video, I will get into the motives of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, some of you will say that's an ad hominem attack. Not really. In fact, I need to do a whole other video on ad hominems because probably of the top two ways people try to avoid addressing the substance of an issue, one of them is to actually do an ad hominem attack. It's very popular, especially on the left. But the other is to falsely accuse someone of making an ad hominem attack because they don't really understand what it means. So I'm not going to get into the whole thing. I said I'll do it separate. But the reason this is not is because an ad hominem attack avoids the substance of the issue by attacking the person who is making the statement. So I'm not going to avoid the substance. I am going to attack Arnie. But then as soon as I'm done, we are going to get into the specifics and the substance of the matter. So I'm not avoiding it. I'm just kind of setting the stage for it. Also, you think it's unchristian to say, "Judge not lest you be judged"? Well, the actual phrase continues, and it's not that we're supposed to go along life with no discernment. It's that judge not lest you be judged, condemn not that you not be condemned, for the measure which you measure will be measured against you. So it's basically saying in modern English, the way we talk is like, hey, Arnie, you want to play games? Well, two can play that game. You want to lump people up and make them collectively guilty of stuff? Well, guess what? To use another cliche, those in glass houses should not throw stones. So, what is Arnold Schwarzenegger's background? Now, he does in his little speech allude to the fact that the Germans and the Austrians were constantly still feeling their guilt for what happened in World War II, and he suffered for that. He kind of indicates his father was a little bit abusive, but he doesn't get real specific as to who his father was. So this is his father. It's Gustav Schwarzenegger. Gustav was a Nazi. Now, when I say Nazi, I don't mean just a member of the German military or the German police force, or in his case, the Austrian force that was annexed. I mean an actual party member, and there is a difference. He applied for membership to the Nazi Party on March 1st, 1938, which was before the Germans came in and annexed Austria. Not only was he a Nazi, Gustav Schwarzenegger was a member of the Stormtroopers, also known as the Brown Shirts or the SA. He joined the SA on May 1st of 1939, which was 6 months after Kristallnacht. So we know what he approved of and what he wanted to be a part of. Gustav made Master Sergeant with the military police force, which was also known as the Chained Dogs. Apparently, it's because they wore these like metal links around their necks as part of the uniform. And even though they were military police units, they actually served as combat troops, and they were on the front lines, and they were used to suppress the civilian populations for the advancing German army. Hey, I'm a Christian conservative, so I don't hold Arnold responsible for the sins of his father. In fact, Ezekiel 18:20 is pretty clear to me. It says, "The soul who sins shall die. The son shall not suffer for the iniquity of the father, and the father shall not suffer for the iniquity of the son. The righteousness of the righteous shall be upon himself, and the wickedness of the wicked shall be upon himself. So Arnold's not responsible for what his dad did. But since it's so popular on the left, this whole generational sin, or we want to hold people accountable for what their ancestors did hundreds of years ago, or even worse, people who weren't their ancestors, just people who kind of look like them. Well, if we're going to play that game, let's get a little more specific, and we can play the game with one generation removed. But I'm not going to do that. Arnold's not responsible for his father. He's kind of responsible for his own associations, though, and Arnold's pretty good buddies with a guy named Kurt Waldheim, who's the former president of Austria, and he's the former Secretary General of the United Nations. And we know what I think of the United Nations. Waldheim covered up his involvement for a whole lot of Nazi atrocities he committed during World War II. And Waldheim was a wedding guest at Schwarzenegger's marriage. So again, not guilt by association. I don't believe it. But you're going to play those games, and Arnold's going to accuse people by their association of being collectively guilty. Well, you're not in a position to do it, Arnie. So before we move on, let's play a little clip of what Arnold Schwarzenegger thinks of dictators and things like this.
I was always dreaming about very powerful people, dictators and things like that. I was just always impressed by people who could be remembered for hundreds of years, or, even like Jesus, being for thousands of years remembered,
Yeah, but Arnold's a Republican, you guys will say. Well, I'm not about party, I'm about philosophy, and Arnold Schwarzenegger is far from conservative. I mean, for goodness sakes, he married a Kennedy. He was the governor of California, which is not exactly known for its conservative values. He was the chairman on President Bush's Council for Physical Fitness. The Bushes aren't exactly pro-Trump, or they're definitely not on board with the current positions of the Republican Party. Following end to his second term, Kasich joined CNN as a contributor, and he also spoke at the Democratic National Convention endorsing Joe Biden, and that was Arnold's boy. That's who Arnold got behind. That's who Arnold's buddies with. October 8th, 2016, Schwarzenegger made it very clear that he would not vote for Donald Trump to be president. Arnold Schwarzenegger is a never-Trumper. So is this all about Arnold's politics and he's in a different wing of the Republican Party? Don't really think so. We just saw the video of how he wants to be remembered for thousands of years. You got to remember, Arnold peaked about half a century ago. I'm a fan. I still enjoy his stuff. I'm not in the cancel culture. I'm going to still enjoy his things. If he comes out with a good movie, eventually, I'm going to run out and watch it. Problem is, he hasn't made a good one in about 2 decades. Go ahead. Name a good movie he's made in the 21st century. In 2017, when Donald Trump left The Apprentice, Arnold Schwarzenegger took over. The ratings plummeted. In fact, I didn't like Trump. I did like Schwarzenegger. So the first time I ever watched it was when he was on there. But apparently everyone else stopped watching it. The ratings plummet, and the show got canceled. Now, of course, Trump's personality, he's kind of a jerk. He knows that Arnold didn't endorse him, that he's a never-Trumper, so he took it as an opportunity to just pick, and twist the knife and just make Arnold that much angrier, because they both blamed each other for the failure of the show. And Trump just further bruised Arnold's ego and gave him more motives to seek revenge. So, like I said, attacking motives is never sufficient. I just kind of gave you this preface as a little payback to Arnold for questioning our motives and likening Nazis to the Proud Boys and basically calling anyone that supports Trump a Nazi. So I'm just saying there's no room for you to make these accusations, and you need to extend the same grace to us that I'm willing to extend to you. So now let's get into the actual events, like what was Kristallnacht.